Good morning, everyone. Mic check. Is this working? Yeah, it sounds like it's working okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started here in just a minute. So if everyone can wound down their conversations. There you go. My first job here is just to introduce Eric. Eric and I, we've been working together for literally 19 years. So we go back quite a ways. And interestingly enough, the first time I really had some serious interactions was in a forum similar to this. One of his colleagues had hired me along with a bunch of other people to open some stores in Utah, and he was opening AT&T stores in Utah and also in Arizona. And they flew us all down here to Phoenix to have a big conference and tell us that everything we knew about retail was wrong, and this is the way they did things, and we were going to be rock stars because of it. And we spent 2 days learning how to look literally at P&Ls, profit and loss for the stores, and how to take care of customers, and how to drive sales, and how to set up quotas for individual employees, and just went through everything that you need to know to run a business. And it was really enlightening because I'd been in sales for a good 10 years prior to that. But he has a strong accounting background, and he brought sales and numbers together in a way that really made a difference. And he's kind of continued with that over the years, and it's been one of his themes, and I've had the privilege to work with him literally for the last 19 years and have learned quite a bit from Eric. So without any further ado, Eric.
How about now? There we go. I turned it off. All right. Well, thank you, Lloyd. I appreciate that. The line for the video is right here. All right, so we're going to tag team this first presentation, and I want to thank everybody for being here today. First and foremost, I didn't know this 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago when I scheduled this, that it was Easter weekend. So for those of you who are here today and here tomorrow, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's a little bit of faux pas on my part, but for those of you who are here, we had 30 registrations. I also know that most of the people that told me they're going to be here one day, but not the other, or they're going to come later today, or they'll be here tomorrow at some point or something. So we have a number of people that will be in and out throughout the day. We'll try and keep everything on track, but want to make sure that you guys get the value of everything that we're here. I'm super excited about being able to the opportunity to share with us or with you what we do at My Biz Coaches. I brought a lot of great speakers in to come in and share with you. They're partners of ours, that they are they facilitate roles and opportunities within the business that we don't directly do. So we bring them in as partners to help and facilitate on the key pieces of the business where you guys need your support. So for instance, we have Chris from Pay Entry, Robin's here from Schoolie Mitchell. We have some other people that'll be here today. Brandon's here from HOA. So we have a total of 10 speakers throughout the day, and I'm really excited to share with you all of their insight and knowledge, as well as what we have for you today. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me start with the mission, vision, values. So when Lloyd mentioned earlier that we brought everybody together and we were talking about, hey, you guys don't know what you're talking about. We're going to show you how to do it better. Okay, that's a lot of that centers around the concepts of mission, vision, and values of your business, right? So when you establish your mission, the key part about your business, whatever it is that you're doing in your business, if you're clear on what your mission is, it allows you to strip away everything else that's going on. So what I'm trying to say is when you are very clear what your mission is, when you're trying to make difficult decisions on your business, they don't become difficult decisions. You know exactly what you need to do. You know exactly what decisions to make based on your mission. And everything that you're doing is moving you towards that mission. So we're really adamant about helping people understand that if you have your mission, vision, values in alignment, then you'll be able to make the right decisions. More importantly, you can actually extend that to your team and help them understand how they carry that torch forward. Does that make sense? Awesome. So again, want to welcome everybody for making the decision to be here. Obviously, you could be a lot of other places today, but you're here today, so I appreciate that. And then give you some insight on how we're going to run the sessions today. First and foremost, we're going to do things a little bit differently in the sense that we're going to have 45-minute presentations. I'm going to ask that we keep the questions to the end of the presentation. We'll have 10 minutes after. So for every speaker that's up here, once they finish up, we'll do a 10-minute Q&A. So if you can keep the questions to the end. We are recording everything through video, so we want to make sure we capture that. And if you do have a question, the reason we want to do that is because we kind of get to run a mic to you to make sure you can get it on the video. Does that make sense? Appreciate that. And then at the end of that, then we'll take 5 minutes and make sure that you guys are getting the full value of your experience, because we want to make sure that you're actually going to be able to take some of these key takeaways that we're going to share with you and be able to implement them into your business, right? It's great to come here, get some great information, learn from different people, but at the end of the day, none of that really helps if you don't go back and implement it, right? How many people have gone to sessions before, training sessions, whether it's development, personal development, or whatever, you go to some kind of training class and learn something, but then you never put the information in place? Okay, most everybody, right? I have grown to appreciate this new strategy, which is I used to read 2, 3, 4 books a month, and I stopped doing that because I realized I'm taking a lot of information, but I'm not utilizing any of it. So I've begun to narrow down to just one book, typically a month, and then I actually implement those things from that book, the key things that I took away from that book, because I realized I'm wasting my time bringing a lot of information, but I'm not actually utilizing it, so it's worthless. So we want to make sure you get the full value of the time that you spend here. And then lastly, we really want to make sure that you're implementing the things that you're taking away, so we're going to capture those things for you so we can share those, and then we'll follow back up with everybody and make sure that you have the key takeaways that you have for your business. All right, last thing I'll mention, the people in the room have some clients in here. Thank you for being here, supporting us. Also have some people that we haven't met before, and we have some people in here that are partners, as I said earlier. So again, for everybody who's here, appreciate very much. So let's start with some of the culture tenets. This extends from a company that Lloyd and I worked with, the last company we're with. So Lloyd's going to help me with the culture tenets. But when we first, the last company we were with, Express Locations, just to give you some insight for those of you not familiar with my background, 24 years in the wireless industry. And during that period of time, I helped 2 companies grow to over $100 million. My last organization that I ran was about 450 employees. We were doing gross revenue and adjusted numbers. They were probably about $250,000 a year. So, I'm sorry, $250 million a year in gross revenue, the organization we work for. So I share that with you to give you some perspective. In addition to that, I also have owned and operated 14 of my own businesses over the last 30 years. So everything from a coffee shop to a martial arts school, a leads business, a trucking business. I had a number of different businesses. Most of those I had concurrently while I had a full-time job. So the reason I'm up here today, because 4 years ago, I decided, I got to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And now that I'm all grown up, what am I actually going to invest my time and energy in? And I decided I'm super passionate about being in business. And more importantly, I recognize that people come to me on a regular basis asking me for advice on their business, because I geek out on this stuff. I spend all my time digging into P&Ls and financial statements and looking at sales analysis and things like that and figuring out how you can improve the business. That's what I'm really into. And I get people coming to me all the time saying, hey, how can I improve this? What could I do here? What would you suggest I do there? And I'm like, somebody's telling me something here. So I am actually a reformed life coach. Okay. I used to be a life coach, and then I realized that nobody wants to pay for personal transformation. But a business coach, there's some money in that, because actually people look at their business and say, you know what? I want to improve my business, and I can actually help them see the return on investment they're going to get from it. And that actually makes a lot more sense to people for whatever reason. So the irony is, I do the same coaching. We still do personal development coaching. We still work on ourselves. So you have blocks that you have to overcome, all that fun stuff. It's just masked as a business coach. So it's kind of a joke. But the reality is as I moved into that role 4 years ago, I founded Superior Consulting Solutions, and I was going to be a consultant. Then I realized, and for those of you who might remember, a couple of years ago, COVID came along. It kind of changed all of that. So, and people were willing to actually do sessions on Zoom. And so I'm like, wow, we got to make a pivot here. There's a gentleman that's not here today. I'm disappointed. He's a good friend. But he was actually helped me build the business initially, and I brought him on board. I'm going to talk about that story a little bit later, but I brought him on board to help me kind of ramp the business up. But what transpired over time is that we realized that there was something really here, and so we developed our mission, which in our particular case, our mission is to help. We have $1 billion mission, which is 1,000 businesses to achieve profitably achieve $1 million in gross revenue. And I'll go through that a little bit more in a minute. But with all of that said, as we were at Express Locations, the one thing that we really, I would say one thing, but one specific thing that the owners really instilled in us was our culture. And for those of you who have ever worked in a larger organization, well, it doesn't matter where you work. Every company has a culture. The reality is, if the culture is not right, the business isn't right. Right? And the more frayed that the culture becomes, the more, well, basically the more afraid the business is, really. But so what ended up happening was, over time, they really instilled this concept of these cultures, so much so that they're ingrained in my head. They're ingrained in all of our employees that worked with us, and really kind of drove home the idea that if you have this dialed in and you understand these key things, then it's going to help you make the right decisions as you kind of progress and move forward. So the first one is the concept of be here now. So you guys are here, you invested the time and energy, money to be here today, to get some training and coaching, and we certainly appreciate that. What I would ask you to do, I know we asked you to turn your phones off, appreciate that, but more importantly, invest the time and energy that you're here for the next 2 days and get as much out of this as you can, and be here now, right? What we found often, and we struggled with many times, people get distracted, you get phone calls, you got important things come up, whatever. But the reality is, if you invest the time and energy to be here, put yourself in that place and actually go through the motion and get the most value you can out of every investment. So we're a uniquely gifted group of individuals comprising all of one team. This is really unique. It was in our company before, it was super important. But at Express Locations, we were all salespeople driving forward on wireless industry, right? But as we transitioned and we're now MyBiz coaches, that's important to us now because we have 7 coaches today. And of those 7 coaches, we all represent something different. Like Jim, for instance, has 25 years of financial experience. Lloyd's done language development companies, actually launched a company in China. Actually spent 15 or 20 years in the wireless industry too. I've got my background with all the different businesses I had. So I'll bring this together, but we're one unique team. And the value of that for anybody who's interested in that type of coaching is we actually have a number of different things that we can bring to the table and help give you insight and understanding of how to grow and scale your business. And that's really what we want to help impress upon people. The win, what's important now. This one's super important. Often people get distracted in your business, right? The biggest challenge that I see with businesses, the owner gets distracted on the day-to-day stuff, right? What you have to be able to do on a day in and day out basis is strip it out to what's the most important thing you can do right now, right? What's important now? And we call those win items. When you have very clear insight, again, what's my mission? What's my vision? I can very clearly identify what's my win item. What is the one thing that I have to do right now? It's going to give me the biggest bang for my buck, the biggest return on investment, whatever it might be. We're going to talk a lot about an ROI audit, but that's kind of that idea. What's important right now? And then seek counsel. I couldn't possibly tell you guys how important that is. As a coach, obviously, I believe there's a lot of value in seeking counsel, but more specifically, when you need to get bearing checks in the beginning and then throughout the course of doing what you're doing. So as a business owner, let me clarify, how many people are in here are business owners? Yeah, okay. So for those of you, one of the most challenging things about being a business owner is often you make all the decisions in a vacuum. You're the only one making the decision. Anybody relate to that? Yeah? Right? You're the CEO, the CFO, and the COO. Right? And I will joke, Lloyd, I remember telling him this when I had about 2.5 years, I had my own wireless business. And we started with one store. 6 months later, I started a second store, a third store, and then I expanded to 9 stores. But I remember very vividly having my board meetings. And I would sit there and be like, okay, Mr. CEO, what are we going to do? And I'd turn to my left and say, I got this idea, this is what I want to do. And I'd turn to my left to the CFO and say, hey, can we do this? Sure, we can make this happen. I turn to the COO and we can execute on this? Yeah, we can make this happen. Right? This is me talking to me, right? Just to be clear. Right? I'm the only one. I'm making all the decisions on my own and I got nobody to bounce ideas off of. And if I do bounce ideas off of them, who am I talking to? Employees? Right? Spouses? Your spouses really want to have that conversation with you? No. Where's my wife? She's down here? She's not in the room. They want to tell you what they think you should do, but they don't really want to hear about all your trials and tribulations, right? So the reality is, when you're in that situation, you need to be able to seek counsel, and you need to know who those people are that you can turn to and ask for insight and advice and get good, clear insight. So collaborate whenever possible. 2 or 3 people are always better than one, and then appropriate risk-taking is expected, but surprises are not. So those are some of the culture tenets. We had 27 of those. These 5 are the ones that really resonated with me and how it relates to what we do at MyBiz Coaches. So these are 5 of these that we carried over into MyBiz Coaches and what we do here. Any questions or thoughts? Appreciate it. So this is our $1 billion mission. I shared this earlier. We want to assist 1,000 businesses to profitably reach $1 million in gross revenue. So I did the math on this. Lloyd shared with you earlier. I kind of geek out on this, right? So I need 100 coaches to have 10 clients. That's 1,000 clients. We want to help them all reach $1 million. So the challenge with that is not everybody's going to play. So I'm going to probably need a few more coaches. I'm probably going to need a few more clients. But at the end of the day, we'll figure out how to get 1,000. Now, why $1 million? Anybody thoughts on that? Okay. $1 million, if you understand the math on this, first of all, less than 9% of all businesses ever achieve $1 million in gross revenue. That's all businesses. Not just small businesses, that's all businesses. Less than 9%. Now, when you think about it from that perspective, that's $1 million in gross revenue. Doesn't mean they're necessarily profitable, but they achieved it, right? So less than 9%. Now, here's the other challenge. If you're doing $1 million in gross revenue and you're operating at a 15% net margin, you're coming in at about $150,000 a year in profit. That's a decent income, isn't it? Yes? Okay. Probably worth the investment, time, and energy that you're going to put into to build your business. $150,000, yeah, I think that would be worth it. Here's the challenge with that. Of that $150,000, right? At the end of the day, when you build that business to that level and you're bringing in that $150,000, you're not really seeing the full value of your business, right? Tax implications, all kinds of different types of challenges that you're going to have with the business. You're going to have expenses. You're going to have ebbs and flows. You're going to have ups and downs in the business. And so at the end of the day, if you're at least doing the 15% and you're coming in at 150,000, you're 2.5 times, 2.25 times more than the average small business income. The average small business income is $68,000. So I joke with people all the time. I'm like, who else do you know that's willing to invest 60, 70 hours to start a business to make $68,000? In today's economy, you can make $68,000 with pretty much any decent mid-tier management job. But you're going to go out there and you're going to invest 60 hours, 70 hours a week to start your own business to make $68,000. So now the point is that that's why you have to get to $1 million. You get to $1 million, you're at least making it worth your time and energy to build that business. You go one step further, less than 5% ever reach $10 million. Less than 1.5% actually reach $100 million in revenue. I happen to be on 2 of those businesses. Right? So I know a little bit about how to scale and grow an organization. That's one thing I try to impress upon people. And as I said before, I've actually operated a number of small businesses. My trucking business, we were doing about $550,000 a month in revenue, about 6 million, a little over 6 million. So I know how to build a small business. I know how to scale a large business. The people that we're bringing into the organization, we're helping people understand how to do that for their businesses. So why small business? There are a couple of really key things. This is super passionate to me. Baby boomers account for 40% of estimated 15 million privately owned businesses in the United States. What do you think that means? Opportunity, yeah, exactly, right? If baby boomers, and that through 1964 is the year that they use for that, the cutoff for that. So that means over the next 7 years, the vast majority of everybody who was born during that age of the baby boomer age, they're all going to be retired. And of those 40% of those 15 million businesses, we're all going to be transitioning. Okay. Mass retirements of baby boomers, approximately 10,000 a day currently in this, and we'll continue to see that number, at least 8,000 to 10,000 retirements a day through the next 7 years, 2030. Most of these businesses, 8 out of 10, will never sell. That means they will close their doors with zero value transition. Meaning you worked 10, 15, 20, 30 years in your business just to get to the end and then not have the windfall that you thought you were going to get to when you went to sell your business. Any thoughts on why that might be? Exactly. Yeah. You had a comment? Yeah, the biggest problem is because most of those businesses don't bring in $1 million and they're only doing $40 or $50 or $60,000 a year in revenue, who wants to buy that business? Nobody wants to buy a business that's not a profitable operating business. You're buying a job, exactly. Right?
Yeah, I mean, somebody who ran, say it was 30 years they've been running, maybe 40 years. They've obviously owned the job.
Right.
Because, you know, it wasn't scalable. It didn't go anywhere else. And very few people are going to want to take over a business that they're just going to work at.
Exactly.
For 30, 40 more years and repeat the process.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and one of the things that we're going to be looking at is how to work on your business and not in your business. And to avoid that trap, you need to start from day one and preparing yourself mentally. Is this a job for me or is this a company I own?
Yep. And
that really will make a huge difference in how you think about your business. And then it sets yourself up to transition. And in many cases, it's not even transitioning once you retire. It's transitioning once you've lost the passion for this particular, you built up a business. I've been doing this for 10 years. Now what? Well, if you did it right, you can hand that business off to someone else and get a payday and then go into something else.
Absolutely.
Well, I think one other thing to what Wayne just said is most business owners lose their passion and then decide to sell the business, and they're no longer putting in the effort and
That's right.
consistency that they did, and it actually goes backwards when they try to sell it.
Exactly. Yep. And a number of different reasons that all play out, right? And I mean, we have a list here later that all the different reasons why people close their businesses or why they have to sell businesses. And, it could be health, it could be whatever, but a big thing is passion. I'm burned out. I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore, right? I've been doing it every day, 60, 70 hours a week for the last 10 years. I'm done.
One last don't have an exit strategy when you start, then you're gonna run into that
Right.
situation. I mean, 8 out of 10 didn't have an exit strategy. They didn't know what they were gonna do when they got to that point, and that's what happened.
Yeah, I would say 9 out of 10 didn't have an exit strategy. 1 out of 10 actually got lucky. But yeah, valid point. And I think you were reading our slides because that's on our slide. Begin with the end in mind. So again, huge factor, huge opportunity, as David shared with us. And then, so the next one on bullet 3, small businesses are the lifeblood of the economy. There's 61.7 million workers. 47% of the workforce work for small businesses, right? Now, there's another point I'll share here in a second, but the big businesses are trying to actually acquire that, and I'll touch on that in a second. But the other thing is you have the gig economy and the great resignation. So anybody who's employing people, you've probably seen this, you struggled with this to some degree, but 34% of people who have opted out of their jobs have opted out because of misalignment with the mission of the company. And then 24% felt stuck, meaning there was nowhere else for them to go. Lloyd will be the first one to tell you that while we were growing the wireless companies that we were in, the one opportunity that we always had, because for the 20 years we were in the wireless industry, it was constantly growing. And so we didn't have a hard time recruiting people because we're like, hey, we got this great opportunity. You come in as a rep, become an assistant manager, store manager, you're probably making $120,000, $130,000 a year as a store manager, $180,000, $200,000 as a director. Right? I mean, there was good money in the business and a lot of people made a lot of money for many years. So over that period of time, an exciting opportunity. But when we started getting to a point where we're like, okay, we're not going to grow anymore, probably the last 2 or 3 years, the owners kind of said, we're not going to grow anymore. I think we added like 2 or 3 stores a year for the last couple of years. A little bit tougher. Because now the only opportunities were when somebody else like moved on. Right? So when you get to a certain point and there's no growth and nobody's got an opportunity to move up, it's much harder to recruit people and bring them in. So that was one of the things that we recognized as well. And then, so I mentioned the last piece was big businesses acquisition consolidation. So if you follow merger and acquisition business at all, which again, I geek out on this stuff, so I read this kind of stuff all the time. Many hedge funds are now beginning to target the same businesses for roll-up opportunities. So they are coming down to businesses that are valued, but actually grossing as little as $5 million a year. Because if a small business is run effectively and you can make a 15 to 20% net margin on it, that's good money, right? So they're looking at businesses at a $5 million in gross revenue at a 20% net margin, they're netting $1 million a year. And they'll pay 3X for that. They'll pay 4X for that. The average for a small business to sell, does anybody, you guys understand when I say that? They'll pay anywhere from 2 to 4X of your EBITDA, your net profit of your business. So if the business is grossing $1 million and you're netting 150, they'll pay you between 2 and 4X of that. So 300,000 to about 600,000 is what you could get for that business. However, if you know what you're doing and you know how to scale your business a little bit further, and you get into the $3 to $5 million range, and you can get to $1 million in net profit. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the $1 million, but the further you get up in that, you have your documented policies, procedures, you got everything in place. Somebody else is running the day-to-day. You have a general manager running the business, COO or something like that. All of a sudden, you're not talking about 2 or 4X. You're talking 6X, 8X. You get a real valuation for your business. That's where you get the payday where you can walk away and actually retire. But it requires that extra understanding of how to grow and scale the business, which is a lot of what we focus on when we sit with the clients. The first question I ask every client when I engage with them, this is a lifestyle business, or do you want to grow and scale it? If it's a lifestyle business, that's absolutely fine, but that's a completely different talk track than the one that we're talking about if you want to grow and scale. Does that make sense? All right. So I mentioned the top 10 reasons for closing a business. These also happen to be the top 10 reasons for selling a business. Money issues, retirement, relocation, burnout, right? Health, shiny object syndrome. Those of you not familiar. Okay. Upcycle, partner challenges, death, and divorce. So as I mentioned earlier, ton of businesses that are going to transition over the next 7 years just because of retirement. Just because of retirement. That doesn't include people that are going to get divorced. Matter of fact, I have a law firm that I'm coaching, and they brought me in to work with a client who, a husband and wife, built a software application. So crazy. They have a software application that does all the scheduling for Little League baseball, or not Little League baseball, but high school, middle school baseball. And it does all the scheduling for this, and they sell it to the school systems. They're doing about $1.5 million a year in gross revenue. They're netting about 25% profits. It's a good business. They're going through divorce, and now they're trying to figure out how they're going to handle that. Well, the problem is the wife does all the sales and the marketing, the husband's the tech guy. So if they try and sell the business, they got to find somebody who's willing to, has the capability of coming in and do both those skill sets. But the challenge is they don't want to sell it because they know if they can just keep with it for a little bit longer, right, then they can actually get a better multiple and be able to sell it for a larger amount of money. Guess what the problem is? They got to keep dealing with each other, and they don't want to do that. So it's pretty interesting, so they asked me to come in and offer some ideas and some insight on how I could potentially help them. But the reality is, at the end of the day, if they're not happy living with each other, they're not probably going to be very good about working together in the business. They say that they're going to work it out, but I don't know they're going to be able to pull it off. Anyway, when you look at those things, right, all of these are opportunities. Now, you might ask, why am I sharing all this insight about opportunities for these businesses that are going to transition? Well, one, if you're already in a business, who do you think the best person is to buy another business? Somebody who's already in a business, right? Now, is it a good idea to buy a second business if your first business isn't running all that well? Probably not so much. But if you got it dialed in, you got somebody who's running the day-to-day, and you have the disposable income, start looking at these opportunities, because you're going to be able to buy these businesses. When we were in the wireless business, the last 10 years, we were buying other dealers, other wireless companies selling whatever they were selling, and we would buy them at 1.5 of their multiple. 1.5 of their EBITDA. Just by when we bought them, we would buy them at 1.5. So for instance, if the store is grossing $400,000 a year, we buy it for 1.5 the multiple. So we pay maybe $100,000 for that business. So we buy it for $100,000. That business, as soon as it folds into our business, the larger company that we have, it immediately gets a 6x valuation. So you guys, everybody follow that? So if you know how to effectively run a business and you know how to scale it, you can find other companies that are not doing as well, right? Or they're struggling, they're not really kind of fully engaged, there's some opportunity there. You can acquire those businesses for much less, roll them up, and make them immediately more valuable because you know how to run and scale a business. So there's tons of opportunity for people out there. This is huge in the insurance business. Lots of people sell their book of business in the insurance industry, right? That's a huge opportunity. You get somebody who's been doing insurance for a while, they don't want to do it anymore. They're willing to sell their book of business, and you can buy it typically for 1.5 their book of business. They're going to ask for more than that, but if you know how to negotiate, you can actually get a much better rate, and you can actually buy that and actually scale, grow your insurance business. One of the primary goals of today's event is to help you understand how to operate and run your business at maximum profit and opportunity. So, one, I want to help teach you and help you understand how to really get the full value, the profitability out of your business. And then two, make sure that you recognize the other opportunities within your business, whether it's in your business or an opportunity to scale and take on another organization of some sort. I'm going to pick on Phil for a second because Phil recently brought me in as a coach with his business. He and Jack, his partner, with the Empowerment Networking Organization. I got it right. We're going through a branding transition based on some of the insights and the conversations we've had. But through that process, I led you through a process where we uncovered other revenue opportunities, incremental revenue opportunities that we can actually use to grow and scale the business, right? It's a pretty painless process for the most part. Yeah. But it certainly helped you understand how this could really grow and scale just where you are today. And then I know you have bigger aspirations to take it beyond that, right? Yeah. So the whole idea is to really kind of take what you have, break it down, understand where the opportunities are, fix the gaps and holes in the business, and then look at how we can take it to the next level. All right, so again, what we should gain, start with the end in mind. Thanks, Lee. Right. Start with the end in mind. So as a business owner, the one thing that I learned from Todd Heiner, who was our CEO at Express Locations, when we sold the business, we sold it for $84 million. And when that happened, I knew he had been talking to the acquirer for a period of time, 6 years. 6 years before we sold that business, he had been talking to the person who bought our business. And he'd been just kind of teasing them along and for 6 years. And they have what they the wireless dealership is kind of like a franchise, and they have like the top 10% of dealers are in what was the group called? Star Council, yeah. So basically it's the top producers, right? And so they bring them all together and they talk and they share with the carrier where the challenges are and frustrations. And he would see them every 6 months when they would go to these council meetings. And he'd keep introducing and reminding him, hey, and so he got to the point where Todd was initially telling him, now we were one of the top dealers in the nation. We were actually the top dealer in the nation based on productivity. And the guy was actually, the guy that acquired us was actually bigger. He had more stores. But the whole time throughout that process, Todd kept reminding him, hey, we outclose you. We outproduce you, revenue per box, right? And keep reminding him. And the whole reason that they bought us is they wanted to learn what we were doing. They literally just wanted what we were doing, how we were able to produce at better numbers than they were getting. So, and that cost them $84 million. So, great opportunity. It's over a period of time. But the exercise there for me was to realize you have to begin with the end in mind, right? You do not, and that was the one thing he taught me about investing. You do not get into something without knowing how you're getting out first. Make sense? Work on your business, not in your business. You heard Lloyd reference that earlier. I'm sure you've all heard that if you read Michael Gerber from the E-Myth. Working on your business, stepping away and objectively looking from the outside in is super important. Everybody, you have to work in your business, but the more time you can step back and look objectively at your business and be able to really understand how things work more effectively, then you can actually make better decisions. Is your business making money? Revenue feeds the ego, but profits feed your family. I think I stole Jim's line. And one of the things that we used to learn at Express was profit is like oxygen to a company, right? Without profits, company can't do what they need to do, right? So when the company's not turning a healthy profit, they're not going to be successful over an extended period of time because they can't do the things they need to do. They can't make the capital investments they need when they need technology, when they need resources, whatever. Cost of capital, you need
My turn.
Yeah.
We'll talk nonstop. It's 8 hours. And I just wanted to jump in on that top line there. Is your business making money? As an entrepreneur, I think one of the biggest challenges is we come to it first and foremost with passion. And this is our company, our baby. This is what we're doing. And the good news is numbers don't lie. And when you actually go back and analyze your business, and this is something that Jim's going to be diving into a little bit deeper here in a bit today, you start looking, is my company actually making money? And you try to take the passion out of it. And you start to look at these next 2 points, the cost of capital, opportunity costs, because you're putting your time, your money into this instead of something else. And it's super easy to get caught up in the passion and not see whether or not this is actually a viable business. And this actually does come back to what Eric was talking about earlier, where you have all of these other businesses that people are going to be closing, either they're retiring or for other reasons. If you stay focused on the number, you'll be one of those individuals that can have a successful business and know when it's time to transition, know how to build it properly so that it can be sold or you can transition into a different role. And actually, it is possible to run multiple businesses when you are on top and not inside the business. So for all of those reasons, when we go down this into, especially what Jim's going to be doing and really digging into the numbers, it's super important because it's something that applies to all businesses, regardless of what it is that you're doing. And it really is what will differentiate you from 90% of the businesses out there. It's your number focused first and foremost, and that keeps your passion in check.
Appreciate that. Sorry. So yeah, as Lloyd mentioned, your cost of capital, your opportunity cost, these are all important things you need to be assessing in your business. Your exit strategies we talked about. And then the last thing is, by using the insights gained over the next 2 days from each of the speakers, you'll be able to conduct an ROI audit on your business. Ensure that you're maximizing your potential for your business. So as I mentioned, we have a number of different speakers that will be coming up over the next 2 days. For instance, Robin with Schooling Mitchell, one of the things that they do is they analyze your expenses within your business, and they help you understand how you can save money on certain services within your business. Could be IT, could be cell phone or technology or communication device, communications, merchant services, a number of different things like that. So they come in, they analyze that, and they help ensure that you're paying the right price, right? Chris represents Pay Entry. They do payroll services and HRs, right? So one of the things that, for instance, I'm a huge fan of outsourcing, anything that you don't want to do in-house. Because the reality is, at the end of the day, there's only certain things you should be focused on as a business owner. And the less that you have to do that isn't directly attributed to what your business is all about. Thank you, Phil. If the less you have to do that isn't directly associated with what you actually are good at, you should be outsourcing it, right? The CEO for Integral Bank will be here later this afternoon. Love what they're doing. When you get to see their software, it's amazing, right? So it's they have a whole different approach on how to bank for small businesses. So there's a number of different speakers. Brandon's going to talk later about raving referrals. We have Spencer's here going to talk about marketing. All of these are key components of your business. And as I said before, if it's not something you're inherently good at, don't try and do it. Outsource it. That's how you can grow and scale your business. Our organization had 1,500 employees. We did it, like I said, about $250 million a year in revenue. We didn't have an HR department. We outsourced. We had a PEO, which is similar to what Chris's company does. We had an employee company that actually managed all the employees, did all the payroll, offered the benefits, all that kind of stuff. We didn't do any of that in-house. We didn't have an IT service. We had an external IT service. We didn't have anything internal. So my point is that what you don't do well, don't try and do it. When you try and bring everything in-house, you get people who are like, oh, I want to bring everything in. When you bring it all in, it's just one more thing you have to manage. It's one more challenge that you have to overcome. And when you can just outsource that to somebody who can do it better. Now, there's certain things you can outsource. I'll talk about that later today when I talk about sales. But there's absolutely certain things that you should not outsource. And so we help you understand what those things are as well. All right, so that's everything we have for the first intro. Let's go ahead and take questions for anybody. No, I beat it all up pretty good. Perfect. Yes.
So I understand that your business techniques primarily to help businesses like prepare that correctly to kind of increase profitability. Do you have like a structure to help prevent them from kind of going down like new business owners, like from the start, helping them structure the business appropriately for like tax liability protection?
Yeah.
Not over leveraging themselves by applying for $25,000 credit card. Their business, like, do you provide those kind of services also?
We do, yeah. As a matter of fact, Lacey and Suhani, they came to us through a referral, and they mentioned that they're like, hey, we want to do this. We want to make sure we do it right. We're not even going to be ready for about 9 months, but we'd like to employ your services so that we can actually get ready now. And so we've been working strategically on building out a performer for them and helping them understand strategically what we need to do over the next 9 months so that they're ready to go and they're ready to hit the ground running. So absolutely. Thank you. All right. See, she got out of hand during one of our conversations, so we had to straighten her. Any other questions? Awesome, thank you. We're going to go ahead and take like 5 minutes while we transition, and